And if you get to a point where you then have the choice to be able to pay back that initial investment, if you do that within 3 years, we've got a special word for you. You're successful. And if you look at the companies in our database, about a third of them met that criteria, about a third of them gone out of business, about a third of them are still in business, but are sort of in this living dead category. Okay? So now what we do, each one of these questions is scored on a scale of either 1 to 9 or 0 to 9. Okay? And if we look at the distribution of the answers on each one of these attributes, scores on each one of these attributes across all the companies, it runs the full range. However, if you filter it down just to those companies that met our success criteria, okay, patterns start emerging. And with the green bar, if you go to the site, take the benchmark survey, you'll get a report like this, and the green bar represents the range of scores of the successful companies. So what this means is generally, and you get little yellow dots, this is yours, you are here. If you're down here, if you're outside that green bar range, then what that says is you're doing something differently than your successful peers are. What does that mean? Does that mean you're guaranteed to fail? No, not any more than if you're scoring in the green range, that's not a guarantee that you're going to succeed. What that means is you're doing something different. And if you're in the green range, you can probably say, I'm probably okay there. But where you score outside the green range is an area you want to look at a little bit more. You need to ask yourself the question, am I doing something wrong here? Or better yet, can I be doing something better here? Do I have a risk here? Can I take steps to mitigate that risk? The whole goal of this exercise is to gain insights into how well designed your business plan is. Because designing a business is kind of like designing a piece of code, okay? You make your best shot, you come up, this is what I want to build, here's what I think I'm going to sell it to. You run the numbers and you say how to try to predict how well is that business going to do. And if you like those answers, great, go start your business. If you don't like those answers, well, the worst thing you do is click the numbers. You see entrepreneurs do that. They'll be able to get investors and stuff like that. But that's not helping you. The right thing is go back and ask yourself, how well designed is my business? Can I improve it? And if you can improve it, then go back, lather, rinse, repeat, run the numbers again, do that. Refine your design until it's going to behave the way you want it to behave. And then you're probably going to do pretty well. So, with that as the concept, a set of 15 attributes that we score on a scale of roughly 0 to 10. What I'd like to do is now show you how this works in practice. And Mike Hostetler here has taken the benchmark survey. He's actually done something that we asked him, like a lot of entrepreneurs to do. Mike has a business that's up and running. We asked him to benchmark himself twice. First was about 2 years ago when he started his business, to benchmark himself based upon where he was then, so that he can understand why he's been successful today. And now Mike's got a series of things that he's thinking about doing next to take his company to the next plateau. He benchmarked one of those ideas, okay? And now we're going to together kind of look at those answers to see what insights we gain about how well this company is. So Mike, you want to say something about your business?
Sure. I started in Mountain Top this summer, will be 3 years. We really kind of fell into it accidentally. We had a client that came to us and said, if we started a business, we'll give you a contract. And so one thing led to another, and we have a couple of employees now, contractors working, been working doing payment consulting. Now, and learning through that process, I started a couple businesses before, nothing that had ever supported myself or anybody else full time. That was a interesting, stressful experience, learning that, and we're looking now at a couple different ideas and opportunities of how to solve some of the same problems we ran into in experiencing this, because again, I think this solid economy is a lot of people are interested in starting their own business now. How can we make it, how can we make people more successful in doing that, and in turn kind of help you pull the company swing up? So that's the vision at least. So met John, took a couple of surveys, and it was really helpful because it kind of confirmed some things, both good and bad. So you're going to kind of get to see the places where we aren't as shored up as I would like,
So Mike's pattern is this, and we're going to do kind of we're a little time constrained, so we're going to do kind of a shallow dive into Mike's survey. But he started a business about 2 years ago. It's a services business. Services businesses are typically low margin businesses. You make enough to cover they're labor intensive. You make enough to cover your expenses, plus hopefully some kind of a margin. Mike's dream is to supplement that income by beginning to roll in some product related revenue. Product related revenue, you tend to spend a lot of money developing out front, but then as you make revenue, the marginal the margin on that on your repeat revenue once you pay back your initial investment goes very high. So this is how Mike wants to stabilize. Not stabilize is the wrong word. That's how he wants to go to the next plateau. So let's take a look at Mike's survey. This is for his next step. Now this is a forward-looking survey of what he wants to do next. So we've got 3 attributes in the market strategy category. And again, the green bar is the range of scores for successful companies. You take a look at this, what stands out first? Take a look at uniqueness. Does that seem to be terribly important to entrepreneurial success? No, not at all. The data doesn't support that. Any of you ever worked in the technology commercialization arena, say with universities and stuff? How many times have you had high-priced consultants tell you that if you don't have a unique technology, you can't have a successful business? The data doesn't bear that out. That's urban myth. That popped out right off the bat. Okay. So on this scale, by the way, on uniqueness, 1 means you're basically buying something somebody else developed and reselling it. 8 means it's totally new and I've got patents and this and that and everything else. Uniqueness really isn't much of a factor. Mike actually scores out about halfway. So I'm not too worried about whether we sell a unique product or service. Think about Microsoft and Apple. Was Microsoft unique? No, but it's a lot bigger than Apple. Roll back to the old days of computing, Apple versus the old Xerox, which the Palo Alto Research Center created the whole music user interface concept. So Apple even wasn't unique, but it was a lot more successful. Now let's take a look at the target market scores and the your market. Your market first is, I asked the users to look out over the next 2 years, how much you think your sales are going to be over the next 2 years, the people you're going to sell to. In the target market question, we ask you to look at yourself and your competitors. What do you think the combined sales are? So it's a fairly well-defined question. And the answers are all, the pay points on those 2 questions are all basically orders of magnitude. Now take a look at the green bars. Most successful companies aim at a fairly small target market and to have a fairly dominant niche there. The success range on the target market is something like 300K to 30 million. Very few successful companies try to become behemoths, in a big market in a short amount of time. What that says, successful companies tend to bootstrap themselves. So let's take a look at Mike's projections on this are pretty much in line. He's got his projected sales off the same product line, we're in the 300K to 3 million range. His target market's in the same range. You want to comment on that?
Mostly, I scored myself that way because chasing something that's fairly unique and trying to carve out something new and innovative rather than doing something that's
So in effect, Mike has got a product idea that he thinks is fairly unique and is aimed at a fairly tight market niche. When we see people, entrepreneurs, score themselves way up in the 8s and 9s, more often than not, it means that they don't know who they are selling to. I kid you not, I'm embarrassed to say this, but in our first company, we said, our market is a huge market. It's any project that's developing software that has a human user interface. Isn't that great? Well, it's not. What we're really fooling ourselves. What we're really saying is we have a clue who really need to buy this new technology that we're developing. So Mike's doing very well. He's aiming at a fairly tightly defined market, and he can sit down with him. He can pretty well define what that market niche looks like.